Hey, Sugar Bee family, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into the most anticipated moment of the year, the Gilded Age Season 3 finale trailer. Episode 8, titled, My Mind is Made Up, promises shocking revelations, betrayals, and decisions that will shape the future of every character we've been following. From Bertha Russell's fight to claim her crown in society to Marian Brooke's heartbreaking choices, this finale is set to deliver a storm that Fifth Avenue will never forget. So grab your tea, because we're breaking down everything you need to know about this epic ending. Marian stands at the edge of a garden, her face unreadable. She watches a letter in her hand, the paper trembling ever so slightly. Behind her, voices argue from within the house. She's no longer the quiet niece, unsure of her place. She knows now that love in this world doesn't always survive the weight of money. Inside another home, Bertha Russell walks slowly down the grand staircase. Every step echoes like a threat. Her eyes are locked ahead, focused, unshaken. She has spent this season clawing for her place at the top of society. This time she won't be asking for permission, not from Mrs. Astor, not from anyone. The opera house she built wasn't just a gift to the city. It was a line in the sand, a promise to herself that she will never be pushed to the sidelines again. Across town, George Russell closes the door to a private meeting room. The glow of oil lamps casts shadows on his face. The railroad scandal he tried to outrun is catching up. The men in that room, once friends, now speak in low tones. Words like investigation and fraud hang in the air. George knows something is coming. This time, it won't be solved with money alone. We cut quickly to Agnes, seated in her grand parlor. Her hands are folded, her chin high. Her words are sharp and final. We don't hear them, but her expression tells us everything. She is making a choice, one that will cut someone out of her life, maybe for good. Each scene in this opening builds tension without saying a single word aloud. That's because in the Gilded Age, silence often speaks louder than scandal. These characters are not just living. They are calculating, maneuvering, surviving. And now they are all on the edge of betrayal, of redemption, of revelation. This is the final hour. The world they know is about to change. A silver fork clinks against fine china. Laughter echoes through the ballroom, polished and practiced. But none of it feels real. Underneath the lace, the jewels, and the golden ceilings, there's a war being waged in silence. Bertha Russell smiles at her guests, but her eyes are scanning the room like a general before a battle. She sees who curtsies, who hesitates, who avoids her altogether. Her opera house stands proud on the corner of 39th Street, but her place in society is still questioned, not because she lacks wealth, but because she refuses to kneel. This season, she's had to learn that power in this city isn't earned with coins, but taken with precision. And now she knows exactly who to cut out and who to crush. Marian Brooke has made a decision, too. But it hasn't been easy. She walks quietly through Central Park, her gloves tightening around her fingers as if bracing herself for what's coming. The man she thought she could love, the life she thought she could build, doesn't fit anymore, not in a world where appearances matter more than promises. Marian is no longer content to be polite and silent. In this finale, she will choose herself, even if it means walking away from comfort, from romance, from what others think is a good match. Down in Brooklyn, Peggy Scott gathers her notes and closes her journal. Her voice is growing louder in the city's papers. But her past still follows close behind. The truth she uncovered about her child and the people who kept it from her has shaken her to the core. She's surrounded by progress and hope, but there's still a fire inside her that burns with disappointment. Peggy isn't just writing stories anymore, she's writing her own future. And she's willing to face anyone who tries to silence it. George Russell, meanwhile, is losing his grip. The sharp, commanding man we met in Season 1 now walks slower. Thinks longer, hesitates. The railroad deals that once came easily now threaten to pull everything down. His wealth is still intact, but his influence is shifting. The investigation is no longer behind closed doors, it's crawling into headlines. And George knows that when society turns against you, they don't just reject you, they erase you. In a quiet sitting room, Agnes Van Ryn listens to the ticking of the clock. Her sister Ada tries to reason with her, but Agnes doesn't flinch. She has spent her life guarding the rules of old New York, of bloodlines and propriety. Now those rules are under attack, and she knows that in this moment, when the world is changing around her, she must either hold the line or be swept away. The Gilded Age Season 3 finale, titled, My Mind is Made Up, doesn't just close a chapter, it defines an era. This is no longer simply a battle of wealth and status, it's a fight for something far greater, legacy. The glittering chandeliers of Fifth Avenue and the sparkling gowns of society women may paint a picture of elegance, but underneath the jewels lies a battlefield where ambition is sharper than any blade. Every character we've followed has been building toward this moment, and now, the stakes have never been higher. At the very center of this finale stands Bertha Russell. From the very beginning, Bertha has been the unstoppable force of new money, pushing relentlessly against the rigid traditions of old New York. The opera house she built is more than a monument to culture, it's her declaration that the old rules no longer apply. Every polished smile she wears masks the quiet fury of a woman who has been judged and dismissed by the Astors and the Van Ryns of the world. In this final episode, Bertha isn't just trying to win their acceptance, she's demanding her place at the top. And make no mistake, Bertha doesn't plan to walk into the future alone. She intends to drag the entire Russell name up with her, securing a legacy that no whisper of scandal or prejudice can erase. But while Bertha is fighting her war in ballrooms and opera houses, her husband George faces an equally dangerous battle behind closed doors. The railroad scandal that has followed him like a shadow is no longer a quiet rumor, it's bursting into the headlines. The men who once toasted his success now murmur words like fraud and investigation in smoky backrooms. For George, this is more than business. His entire empire, the foundation upon which the Russell family stands, hangs in the balance. If George falls, the Russell legacy may collapse with him, and Bertha's social victories could turn to ash. The finale promises to test George like never before, and this time, wealth alone may not be enough to save him. Meanwhile, Marian Brooke, once the quiet niece unsure of her place in the grand world of New York, finds herself at a crossroads that could define her future. Love has been her guiding star, but in this glittering world, love is often tested against the cold, unforgiving weight of money and reputation. As Marian walks alone through Central Park, her gloves tightening around her hands, she must decide whether to follow her heart or protect herself from a lifetime of compromise. The finale suggests she is ready to choose herself, even if it means giving up romance and the security that comes with it. It's a bold step, one that could shape her own legacy, not in riches or social standing, but in self-respect and independence. Together, these three storylines intertwine to form the heartbeat of the finale. It's not about who has the most jewels or the grandest home, it's about who will be remembered. Will Bertha carve out a dynasty strong enough to outshine the old families? Can George hold on to the empire he built with his bare hands? And will Marian's decision set her free, or leave her standing alone in a society that devours those who don't play by its rules? No character in the Gilded Age embodies ambition and resilience quite like Bertha Russell, and in the season 3 finale, My Mind is Made Up, her journey reaches its most defining moment yet. From the very beginning, Bertha has been dismissed by the old guard of New York society, labeled as new money, and treated as though her wealth wasn't quite enough to buy her a seat at their table. But Bertha has never been one to quietly accept rejection. With every sharp glance, every bold move, and every calculated decision, she's carved her own path through the glittering yet treacherous world of Fifth Avenue, her crowning achievement. This season, the grand opening of her opera house wasn't just a gift to the city's cultural scene. It was a declaration of war against Mrs. Astor and the families who cling to the traditions of old New York. The opera house wasn't built to fit into their world, it was built to replace it. Every chandelier that sparkled, every note that soared through the auditorium was Bertha's way of saying, I am here, and I will not be ignored. For Bertha, this wasn't about entertainment, it was about legacy, power, and her refusal to kneel before those who believe bloodlines matter more than brilliance. In the finale, we see her standing at the center of her grand ballroom, bathed in the golden glow of gaslight. Her smile, radiant and practiced, is as much a weapon as any sword. On the surface, she welcomes her guests with grace, but behind her eyes lies calculation, measuring every curtsy, every handshake, every hesitant glance. Bertha knows exactly who has doubted her, who has whispered behind her back, and who has tried to keep her from ascending. And in this final episode, she's no longer seeking their approval. She's ready to cut ties, to close doors, and to ensure that anyone who dares to stand in her way is left in the shadows of her triumph. This moment isn't just about social victories, it's about control. Bertha has always understood that power in New York society isn't handed down, it's seized. And now, after clawing her way to the top, she has no intention of letting go. The finale makes it clear that Bertha isn't just playing their game anymore, she's rewriting the rules. Her empire isn't built on fragile acceptance but on undeniable strength, and she intends to pass it on to her children, ensuring that the Russell name will echo through history alongside, if not above, the Astors and the Van Ryns. Yet even as she basks in her triumph, there is an undercurrent of danger. Her husband George's looming scandal threatens to shake the very foundation she's built. For all her glittering victories, Bertha knows that if George's empire collapses, the cracks in her carefully crafted image could widen into ruin. And so, in the finale, we see not just Bertha's strength, but her fierce determination to protect everything she's fought for, no matter the cost. Bertha Russell's defining moment isn't just about claiming her place in society, it's about making sure no one can ever take it away. In this finale, she steps fully into her power, not as a guest in New York's elite world, but as its queen. From the moment we first met Marian Brooke in The Gilded Age, she seemed like the picture of innocence, soft-spoken, uncertain, and often overshadowed by the larger-than-life figures of New York's elite. But as Season 3 has unfolded, Marian's quiet strength has grown, and in the finale, my mind is made up. She faces the most important decision of her life. For Marian, the finale is not just about love. It's about independence. All season, she has been pulled in two directions: the safety of conforming to society's expectations versus the risk of following her heart and carving her own path. We've watched her weigh every word spoken by her formidable Aunt Agnes, who has made it her mission to guard Marian from improper choices. We've seen her wrestle with her feelings for men who, on paper, seemed like the right match, but whose lives and ambitions didn't truly align with her own. The trailer gives us a haunting image: Marian walking alone through Central Park. Her gloves pulled tight, her face both determined and pained. It's a powerful symbol. The park, a place where New York society often strolls arm in arm to be seen, is where Marian chooses solitude. This moment isn't about a suitor on her arm or a family member by her side, it's about her. For the first time, Marian is stepping out of the shadows and into her own light, even if it means leaving behind the comfort of a wealthy match or the approval of her family. Her decision is not an easy one. The man she once believed could give her happiness now represents a life of compromise. A life where appearances would matter more than promises, and where she would always be measured by her worth as a wife rather than as an individual. Marian's heart may ache for what could have been, but she knows now that love built on sacrifice and silence isn't truly love at all. In this finale, she refuses to play the role society has written for her. Instead, she chooses the role she was born to play, her own. It's a bold move, especially in an era when women were expected to marry for status, wealth, or stability. To walk away from that safety net is to risk becoming an outcast in a world where one's future depends heavily on family connections and social ties. But Marian understands something few around her do: true happiness cannot be bought or arranged. It must be chosen, even if the choice leaves her standing alone. This decision marks Marian's transformation from the timid niece of Agnes Van Ryn into a woman who defines herself, not by others, but by her own convictions. Her quiet rebellion is not as loud as Bertha Russell's Grand Opera House or as dangerous as George Russell's business dealings, but it is just as revolutionary. In the finale, when Marian chooses herself, she does more than reject a suitor, she redefines what it means to live in the Gilded Age. She proves that even in a world built on appearances and legacy, there is still power in independence. And while her future may remain uncertain, one thing is clear: Marian Brooke is no longer anyone's shadow. She is her own story. Among all the characters in The Gilded Age, Peggy Scott's journey has been one of the most inspiring and emotionally powerful. From the moment she stepped into the bustling streets of New York, Peggy has carried herself with intelligence, grace, and a determination that has set her apart. She began as a young writer with dreams of making her mark, but in the season 3 finale, My Mind is Made Up, we see Peggy step into her full power, not just as a journalist, but as a woman determined to take control of her own story. Her pen has always been her greatest weapon. Through her words, Peggy has managed to expose truths others would rather keep hidden and shine a light on issues that society prefers to ignore. Every article she's written has chipped away at the walls of privilege and prejudice, forcing powerful people to reckon with their actions. But in the finale, the stakes are higher than ever. The personal and the political collide in ways that test Peggy's strength like never before. The lingering truth about her child continues to weigh heavily on her heart. Earlier this season, Peggy uncovered painful truths about the fate of the baby she was told had died, a revelation that rocked her world and shook her trust in the people closest to her. This wound, still fresh, bleeds into her work. It fuels her passion, her drive, and her refusal to let anyone silence her voice. While her career is on the rise, Peggy is still grappling with the betrayal and heartache of discovering how deeply her past was controlled by others. In the finale, the trailer teases Peggy closing her journal, her eyes burning with quiet determination. It's a small gesture, but it carries enormous weight. Peggy isn't simply recording history anymore, she's rewriting it. For too long, others have tried to dictate her story, to control her future, and to diminish her worth. But now, she's taking the pen fully into her own hands, determined to ensure that her voice is not just heard, but felt. What makes Peggy's journey so compelling is the balance she strikes between vulnerability and strength. She has faced heartbreak, prejudice, and betrayal, yet she continues to stand taller with every challenge. In a world where society looks down on her because of her race and her gender, Peggy has chosen to rise above, not with loud defiance, but with the quiet, unshakable power of truth. Her courage has made her one of the most respected voices in the city, and in the finale, she cements her place as a force that cannot be ignored. The finale makes it clear: Peggy Scott is no longer just a promising young writer, she is a trailblazer. She's building a legacy not just for herself, but for those who will come after her. And no matter how influential or powerful her opponents may be, Peggy refuses to let them take away her voice. In My Mind is Made Up, Peggy proves that the written word can be as mighty as any fortune, and that when a woman decides to step fully into her power, nothing, not even the weight of society's disapproval, can silence her. George Russell has always been a man who commanded respect. From the moment he appeared in The Gilded Age, he embodied the ruthless determination of the new money class. Sharp, calculated, and unafraid to bend the rules, George built an empire brick by brick, railroad by railroad, until he stood as one of the most powerful men in New York. But in the season 3 finale, My Mind is Made Up, we see that even titans can fall. The scandal that has quietly followed George all season is now boiling over. Whispers of fraud, shady deals, and unethical practices that once floated through the air of backrooms and private meetings are now finding their way into the headlines. Men who once toasted to George's success with glasses of brandy now lower their voices and use words like investigation and prosecution. The grand boardrooms that once felt like his kingdom now feel like a courtroom, and for the first time, George is on the defensive. The trailer paints a chilling image: George closing the door to a private meeting room, the glow of oil lamps casting long shadows across his face. He is no longer the commanding figure who could silence a room with a single glance. Instead, there's hesitation, doubt, and a haunting awareness that the empire he built with his bare hands may be slipping through his fingers. George has always believed that money was the ultimate solution, the shield that could protect his family from scandal and ruin. But in this finale, he learns a hard truth: wealth can open doors, but it cannot erase a public scandal. If the whispers turn into charges, not only will George's empire crumble, but the entire Russell family name will be dragged through the mud. And in the brutal world of Fifth Avenue, society doesn't simply reject a fallen man, it erases him. For Bertha, George's unraveling is more than a personal crisis, it's a direct threat to the very legacy she has fought so ruthlessly to build. Her place in society, her opera house, her power, all of it is balanced on the stability of her husband's empire. If George falls, the foundation beneath her feet will collapse as well. No matter how fiercely she smiles through the scandal, the finale teases a man caught between two worlds, the ruthless businessman who clawed his way to the top and the husband and father trying desperately to protect his family. Every hesitation, every second of doubt, chips away at the iron image George has carefully maintained. For perhaps the first time, we see not the titan of industry, but the man beneath, the man who fears losing everything. What makes this moment so powerful is that George's potential downfall isn't just financial, it's existential. His fortune can be rebuilt, but his reputation, once destroyed, may never recover. The finale raises a terrifying question: can George Russell survive in a society that is just as eager to destroy him as it once was to elevate him? If George falls, the ripples will be felt across all of Fifth Avenue. For the Russells, it won't just be the loss of money or influence, it will be the loss of a legacy. Agnes Van Ryn has long stood as the immovable force of old New York. With her sharp tongue, commanding presence, and unwavering belief in tradition, she has acted as the guardian of a world built on bloodlines, propriety, and rigid social order. To many, Agnes is the embodiment of old money elegance, an unyielding pillar of the values that have defined Fifth Avenue for generations. But in the season 3 finale, my mind is made up. Even Agnes cannot ignore that the world she has so carefully protected is changing faster than she ever imagined. The trailer offers us a quiet yet powerful image: Agnes seated in her grand parlor, the golden light of a chandelier glinting off her stern expression. Her hands are folded tightly in her lap, her chin raised high. She doesn't need to speak, her silence carries the weight of centuries. Around her, the ticking of a clock echoes in the room, each strike a reminder that time does not wait, not even for the most formidable of women. Throughout the series, Agnes has been unwavering in her belief that society must hold to its traditions. She has resisted the rise of the Russells, scoffed at Bertha's attempts to infiltrate high society, and criticized Marian's choices when they veered too close to independence. To her, the old rules are not just guidelines, they are the very foundation of New York society. But the finale forces her to confront a painful truth: those rules are crumbling. New money is no longer content to stand in the shadows, and women like Bertha Russell are rewriting what it means to have power in the city. Meanwhile, Marian, once the timid niece under Agnes's strict guidance, has begun to defy those expectations, choosing a path that prioritizes her own happiness over social approval. Agnes, for all her determination, is watching her influence slip through her fingers. In this finale, the words, "My mind is made up," become more than a declaration, they become a final line in the sand. It signals that Agnes has reached a point where she must take decisive action, even if it means cutting ties with those closest to her. Perhaps it is Marian, whose independence clashes with Agnes's ideals, or perhaps a trusted ally who has dared to embrace change. Whoever it may be, Agnes is prepared to close a door, and once it shuts, it may never reopen. The tragedy of Agnes's story lies in her complexity. She is not a villain, nor is she entirely a hero. She is a woman bound by the rules of her time, rules she believes protect her family and the world she loves. Yet as the finale makes clear, the world is moving on, with or without her blessing. The question becomes, will Agnes adapt, or will she cling so tightly to the past that she is left behind entirely? As the finale draws near, we see Agnes in a rare moment of vulnerability, not through tears or pleas, but in her quiet resolve. The ticking clock in her parlor serves as a reminder that even the most steadfast traditions cannot stop the march of change. And when she finally says, "My mind is made up," it is not just a decision, it is a sentence that could alter the future of her family and her place in New York society forever. In the Gilded Age, nothing is ever quite as it seems, and in the season 3 finale, My Mind is Made Up, the glittering world of Fifth Avenue reaches its breaking point. On the surface, the finale dazzles with the usual splendor: towering chandeliers, diamond tiaras, silk gowns, and ballrooms filled with laughter. But beneath this polished veneer lies a war fought not with weapons, but with whispers, glances, and carefully chosen words. The war behind the masks is about to explode, and no one will emerge unchanged. The opening of the finale sets the tone with the clinking of silver forks against fine china, a sound that in any other context might seem harmless but here feels like a drumbeat of tension. The camera glides through the grand ballrooms where every smile is practiced, every laugh rehearsed, and every gesture calculated. Guests exchange polite pleasantries, yet behind their eyes, they're measuring each other, plotting their next moves in the silent chess game of high society. Bertha Russell, as always, is at the center of it all. She greets her guests with warmth, her gown glittering like a crown, but her eyes scan the room with the precision of a general before battle. Who curtsies deeply? Who hesitates just long enough to send a message of disapproval? Who looks away, hoping not to be noticed? Bertha is not simply hosting a party, she's waging war, and every interaction is a weapon. Her smile is the mask, but beneath it, she's already deciding who will be cut from her circle and who will rise alongside her. Marian Brooke, meanwhile, moves more quietly through the room. Her decision to choose herself this season gives her an air of strength, though it's not without cost. Every polite exchange carries the weight of knowing that she is stepping away from the expectations society has thrust upon her. The smiles directed at her may be kind, but the whispers behind her fan are judgmental. Marian knows the cost of independence in this world, but she also knows the greater cost of surrendering herself to a life without freedom elsewhere. Peggy Scott watches with a journalist's eye. To her, every flick of a fan, every exchanged glance, every hushed conversation is a story waiting to be written. But in this finale, Peggy is not just an observer, she's part of the game. She has become too influential, too powerful, for anyone to ignore. The very society that once tried to silence her now must acknowledge her presence, even if only through gritted teeth. Peggy's mask is her poise, but beneath it burns the fire of a woman determined to tell the truth, no matter the consequences. And then there is George Russell, standing at the edge of the room, his once commanding presence now clouded by doubt. The whispers of scandal seem to follow him like shadows in the gaslight. Men who once sought his approval now offer smiles that are just a little too thin, their conversations a little too clipped. George wears the mask of control, but the audience can see the cracks forming. This finale makes one thing clear: the Gilded Age has always been about appearances, but appearances can only hold for so long. In My Mind Is Made Up, the masks finally begin to slip. And when they do, we'll see who truly holds the power, and who will be erased from Fifth Avenue history forever. The most powerful moments in the Gilded Age are never shouted, they're whispered. In this finale, change comes not with fury but with quiet, deliberate actions. A door closing softly. A letter folded with trembling hands. A look held a second too long. These are the choices that will redefine futures. As Bertha stares at her own reflection, as Marian takes her first steps toward independence, as George risks losing everything, and as Agnes and Peggy fight their battles, the message becomes clear: in this world, silence is the sharpest weapon of all. And there you have it, Sugar Bee family, the Season 3 finale of The Gilded Age, titled My Mind Is Made Up. A world where every smile is a weapon, every decision carries the weight of legacy, and silence speaks louder than scandal. From Bertha Russell's ruthless rise, to Marian's brave choice of independence, to Peggy's unstoppable voice, and George Russell's fight to hold his empire together, the finale promises to change everything we thought we knew about Fifth Avenue. But the real question is, who will stand tall when the masks fall, and who will be erased from the history of the Gilded Age forever? I want to hear what you think. Do you believe Bertha will finally cement her place at the very top? Will George survive the scandal threatening his empire? And is Marian ready to face the consequences of choosing herself? Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments below, because this finale is sure to have us all talking. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to give the video a big thumbs up, subscribe to Sugar Bee, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into your favorite shows. Until next time, keep shining bright, because just like the Gilded Age, appearances may glitter, but it's the truth that lasts forever.